5 major reasons why banks never lend broke people money, except the wealthy. Let me ask you a hard question. Have you ever walked into a bank needing money only to walk out feeling small, embarrassed, or rejected? Maybe you needed capital to start a business. Maybe you wanted to grow something real. Maybe you need money for grocery, and the bank said no. But here's the part nobody talks about. At the same time you were being rejected, that same bank was calling wealthy people, inviting them to come take loans they didn't even ask for. But there you are begging for that same money banks are offering rich people to take. It's not because the rich are nicer, not because they're smarter, but because the system is built for them. Built for them? Yes. The system is built in such a way that only the rich benefit from it, while the poor is left with nothing. Today, I'm going to break down 5 major reasons banks rarely lend to broke people, and why they aggressively chase the wealthy. More importantly, I'm going to show you how to flip the script, even if you're starting from zero. Stay with me because this isn't just about money, it's about power. The reasons why banks don't lend to broke people is: 1. Banks don't lend to need, they lend to safety. Banks don't care how badly you need money. They don't lend to desperation. They lend to security. They don't lend to help you start the process. They lend to help you continue the process, and in return, they make more money. When you're broke, the bank sees risk everywhere. Your bank sees unstable income, no financial buffer, one emergency away from poverty, financial illiteracy. To the bank, lending to someone who needs money feels like trying to pour water into a leaking bucket. Now compare that to the wealthy. The wealthy don't need the loan. They already have money, so if something goes wrong, they can still repay. But not for the poor. That has no means of repaying back if peradventure something goes wrong. In fact, the lack of cash brought them to the bank to seek for money in the first place. That's why banks feel unsafe lending to them. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The more you need a loan, the less likely the bank is to give it to you, which leads directly to reason number 2. Banks don't lend money, they lend proof. Banks are not emotional institutions. They are evidence-based machines. They don't believe promises. They believe paper trails. They don't trust words. They trust genuine evidences. If you're broke, you often lack income-producing assets, credit history, documented income, financial consistency, not because you're irresponsible, but because nobody ever taught you how to build financial proof. Now watch how this connects to the wealthy. Wealthy people leave records everywhere: tax records, investment accounts, assets, business entities. Even if they lose money one year, the bank sees a pattern of competence. To the bank, proof equals predictability. Predictability equals trust, and trust equals money. Which brings us to reason number 3, the quiet one nobody warns you about. Banks lend against collateral, not potential. Banks don't bet on dreams. Banks don't bet on visions and ideas only. They don't fund hustle. They don't finance ambition. They lend against collateral. Collateral is something the bank can take if you fail. Property, investments, businesses, assets. Most broke individuals have none of these. So even if your idea is brilliant, even if your plan is solid, the bank sees nothing to grab if things go wrong. Now notice how this connects to the wealthy again. The wealthy rarely borrow unsecured money. They borrow against what they already own. That's why they can get lower interest rates, larger loan amounts, instant approvals. Because the bank isn't really taking a risk. It's not a loan, it's leverage. And once you understand leverage, you'll understand reason number 4. Banks love people who understand the game. Banks don't reward effort, they reward structure. Wealthy people speak the bank's language: debt-to-income ratios, cash flow, asset appreciation, risk mitigation. They don't walk into banks saying, "I need money." They walk in saying, "Here's how this loan makes us both richer." Whereas broke people do the opposite. They think self only. Broke individuals are often taught, save hard, avoid debt, don't ask questions. So when they approach banks, they come from a place of fear. They come from the place of lack, not abundance. And banks can smell that. This isn't because broke people are unintelligent. It's because financial education is intentionally rare. And 90% of broke people don't have financial education. This alone gives banks more reasons never to loan you nothing. And that leads to the final, most painful reason. Number 5. Banks make more money lending to the wealthy. This is the part most people don't want to accept. Banks don't exist to help people escape poverty. They exist to maximize profit. They don't exist to help carry your financial burdens. They exist to leverage on your financial burdens to make more money by giving a helping hand. A wealthy borrower borrows more, multiplies it, borrows repeatedly, defaults less, brings referrals, buys additional financial products. A broke borrower borrows small, go broke after some months, has higher risk, often struggles with repayment, generates less long-term value. So from a business standpoint, banks focus on clients who compound their profits. And guess who compounds? The wealthy. Now here's the important part. This isn't where the story ends, because now I'm going to give you the remedy. Listen carefully. You don't fight the system by complaining about it. You win by understanding it. Here's how to start shifting from unlendable to bankable. Step 1. Stop asking for money, start building proof. Your first goal isn't a loan. It's financial credibility. That means building consistent income, even small, using credit responsibly, documenting everything. Banks trust patterns, not peaks. Step 2. Turn skills into structure. Stop operating informally. Create a registered business, a business bank account, a clean paper trail. The moment you look organized, you become less risky. Step 3. Build assets before you need capital. Even tiny assets matter. Equipment, savings, investments, intellectual property. Assets change how banks see you. Step 4. Learn financial language. You don't need to be rich. You need to be literate. Literacy eliminates ignorance. Understand cash flow, how money moves, debt strategy, leverage. When you speak the language, doors open. Step 5. Think long-term, not emergency to emergency. Banks don't fund survival, they fund systems. The moment you stop living reactively and start planning strategically, you move closer to the side they lend to. If banks won't lend you money today, it doesn't mean you're worthless. It means you're unprepared, not incapable. The wealthy weren't born trusted, they were positioned, and positioning can be learned. So here's my challenge to you. Stop asking, why won't banks help me? Start asking, how do I become impossible to ignore? If this message opened your eyes, share it with someone who feels locked out of the system. Subscribe, learn, build. Because the goal isn't to beg banks for money. The goal is to become the kind of person they call first.